Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to 2022 Covered. This is Bela Khan. I'm serving as a lecturer of psychology at International Open University. And I have Dr. Francesca Bocca with me, who is head of psychology department. So we welcome all of you, and we'll take a few minutes to wait for the rest of you to join. And inshallah, meanwhile, you can let us know, where are you joining us from? Which part of the world, and how's the weather there in your part of the world? Probably I'll be able to see the chat when it comes in. It's after a very long time that we are doing Facebook Live, so please don't mind if we mess up, and we are likely to, but inshallah, I hope that's going to be okay. So where are you joining us from? Okay, we have so many people joined us already. And we'll just take a couple of moments to get started with. Let us know where you're joining us from and how's the weather. I apologize if there's a background noise. I'm not at my usual place, so probably you'll have to listen to quite a lot of background noises, which I cannot help, do anything about it. All right, probably I'll not be able to read your chat for some time. Dr. Francesca, we have a good number of people already joined us. So if you just give me a green signal, inshallah, we can get started.
Bismillah.
All right, so once again, welcome, and inshallah, we'll be talking about goal setting. And before we start, Dr. Francesca, would you tell us, mashallah, with the kind of champion you are in teaching, publishing papers, raising a kid, and doing so many things, what are you planning for next 365 days?
Well, Bismillah, inshallah, a lot of things going on, both at IOU and outside. At IOU, we are planning to, of course, always increase and improve the offer of our courses. So there is some quality check work, some new teaching, and inshallah also with the development of the new masters, that is a lot of reading to do to prepare for those courses. And then, of course, as usual, inshallah, I would like to focus on the Italian community. So keeping on my educational work with the children here and translating more works into Italian, and inshallah also trying to teach my child more Arabic, inshallah. And what about you? How is your planning going?
I believe I couldn't have a better person to do this Facebook Live with, mashallah, so many things together. Something similar, Doc, that you're working on? IUU stuff, some personal goals, some goals with the kids, and some goals as families, inshallah. So as we talk about goals, my first question is, a lot of people have this understanding that, goal setting, should we be setting the goals in the first place? Isn't it against putting your trust in Allah? What do you think? That how do we answer this question?
Yeah, so I think this is a big misunderstanding in our community about the fact that goal setting is not completely Islamic, and that one should focus on their spirituality and then essentially let things flow by. And I believe that, on the other hand, as many of the Islamic texts suggest to us, what is in our hands to be done should be done. While on the other hand, we should work on our contentment towards what then Allah wishes to make out of our intention. So mainly the importance that we have here is about the concept of the niyyah, the intention that we have in things. And of course, what we are evaluated about in our actions is this intention. But at the same time, the more intentions we have to do good, so the more goals we have in our life, then the more our reward is. And I would like, therefore, to really try for Muslims to associate the concept of goal planning, of beneficial goal planning, of course, with the ideas of Islam.
Absolutely. And when you talk about intentions, alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah, that's the beauty of our deen, that we are even rewarded for our intentions. So perhaps if we intend or we set some goals for coming 365 days, and for the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for whatever reason we are unable to accomplish that, we are also rewarded for our niyyah. So I mean, subhanAllah, that's the beauty of our religion. And I would also like to see it from the perspective, Dr. Francesca, that Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said that, you know, there are different versions of this narration. So there came a person, and Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that, didn't you tie your camel? And he replied that I have put my trust in Allah. So Prophet ﷺ said that, you know, tie it first and then put your trust in Allah. So I think it's a misunderstood concept in our society that putting our trust in Allah means doing actually nothing and taking things as they come. But the actual understanding should be that by all means, that put your trust in Allah by all means, but a part of trusting Allah also entails that you doing your bit, you putting in your effort, and goal setting is one such practical effort towards, of course, whatever you're intending for.
Yeah, mashallah. And concerning then goal setting, I wanted to talk about the topic of what should our goals be, because we have a lot of sayings from the Salaf, for example, that they encouraged us not to have goals that distract us from Allah. For example, Sufyan al-Thawri has this athar in which it says that the renunciation of the world consists in the brevity of one's hopes, not in eating rough food or donning a mantle. So one person should not get so engrossed in planning and having objectives and hyper productivity mode so then he forgets about what is really important in the life of a Muslim. And at the same time, Dawood al-Tai, another of the Salaf, said that were I to hope for 1 month of life, I would consider that I had committed a sin. And this is also important because planning should never make us feel, you know, we have everything covered, everything is in our hands, and everything will go according to plans. It is really like you mentioned from the hadith, no? We tie the camel, but then put the trust in Allah. So I think in the teachings of the Salaf, who are, mashallah, incredibly productive people, there is really the correct balance between the two.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also take my inspiration from the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, that, you know, especially when it comes to goal setting, that when the person comes to him, to the prison, and he asks about the dream of the king, Yusuf alayhi salam, of course, he did interpret the dream for him. And at the same time, he gave him an action plan, right? So how can you possibly save yourselves in those years of drought? And those 7 years that Yusuf alayhi salam is giving the tangible action plan for, they were like not the immediate 7 years. They were the 7 years after that first set of those 7 years. It means that goal setting is something that is incredibly encouraged. I mean, you look at your choices, you look at what's coming next, if it's recession, if it's economies crumbling, prices going up, prices going down, and by all means, take all those things into consideration and then set your goals. So this is probably the first part of the Facebook Live that we wanted to cover, that if goal setting is something that is encouraged, or if it is something that is against the Mashiach of Allah, against the will of Allah. So I think that it is not a part of, again, just as I said, putting our trust in Allah is to plan, right? Now, when we have, is there anything that you'd like to add here, Dr. Francesca?
No, I mean, perhaps to take just one more inspiration from the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, because this is not something as simple as tying the camel and trusting in Allah. So some people sometimes think, okay, of course I should goal plan if what I'm going to eat tonight, but then, you know, my work, my relationships, the very complicated things in life, let's just let them go however they want. What Yusuf was in a situation that in comparison, the COVID one is simple, you know, so it really motivates us that even in such difficult times and with such complicated family relations as he had, we still have to do this planning, even when everything seems so unpredictable, like the times we're living in.
Very, very beautifully put, Doctor. I completely agree that such difficult and such uncertain times Yusuf alayhi salam was in. But he didn't say that, okay, I'm going to take life as it comes because, you know, I planned something, but my brothers threw me in the well. And I was planning another thing, and this Aziz wives attacked me, and then I was put to prison. Nothing. I mean, he was so, subhanAllah, he was so focused and he absolutely knew what he was. One of the things that really inspires me, probably not directly related to our discussion, but I'll just bring it up that I mean, in psychology, we keep talking about, you know, childhood trauma and everything that affects our current life. By all means, it does. And when I think about trauma, I mean, what bigger trauma can we think of than your own brothers throwing you into the well? And then what bigger trauma can you think of than a woman that presumably would have taken as, you know, someone very high, and probably she would be something that as a child he would be holding very high in his head. But then she, I mean, having, you know, getting seduced by someone who you look up to or you kind of respect is a very difficult position to be in. But going through all this and then being put into the prison, he doesn't come back and he doesn't complain. Instead, he has like such a strong persona. He says he stands in the um, court of the king and he says that, you know, make me this finance minister if I were to say in this time and age. So, subhanallah, I mean, his personality continues to inspire me. And the way you said that, absolutely, even in those uncertain times, he was able to do goal setting in such a powerful way. We cannot complain of Corona and we don't know what's going to happen next. We still have to set goals and, inshallah, do our bit and then leave the rest to Allah. And then, so now we come to the more tangible, we come to the more actionable part, Doc. So, how do you set goals?
Well, okay. Well, personally, I try to divide my life in the areas that are really important to me. So there is the work part, and there is, of course, my study part, because I value very much continuing to learn and to study. And there is the family part. And then once I have tried to find some major milestones for that time for each area, I try to divide them into some smaller bite-sized tasks. And what about you?
Okay, so I completely agree. Same thing that you should have your areas defined. And even before defining the areas, what would I personally do and encourage my students to do is to, you know, find the vision, the purpose, the meaning, you know, and simply put, what are you alive? What are you living for? What's the big why? Why are you here in this world? And how do you want to make a difference in this world? So this one point I've seen it is so powerful when you know your bigger why, when you know that what are you doing in this world, and when you're like laser focused. If you can just figure out this one thing, it can not only help you with goal setting, it can help you with decision making, which country you should be living in, what courses you should be taking, you know, where you should be migrating, which school should you be sending your children, and it's such a powerful thing. It will help you have a very healthy self-esteem. It will help you in the face of suffering. It can help you fight the suffering and have a very dignified persona in those times. Also, um, I believe that when you have this purpose, and I mean, you can have any example of purpose. I want people to have healthy mental health, for example. I want people to get closer to Allah, or I want people to, let's say, memorize Quran, or I want people to have better eating health habits. Anything. When that's defined for you, goal setting is going to be very easy. And the day and age that we live in, we are bombarded with distraction from all direction. This course coming up, that course coming up. Once you define it, let's for the sake of, for example, let's say that I want to be a psychologist, simply put. So when you have made this decision, you will be very selective. You will be very choosy. Like I only have to do this degree, this course. I'm not going to do everything that life throws at me, right? Or if you see that also helps with decision making. And then once you have identified this vision, this purpose, this bigger why, next what you do is that you break it down to daily, weekly, monthly tasks. And you just ask yourself this important question every single day, that what can I do today to reach closer to my vision? What goal can I achieve today? It has to be, I usually say that dream big, but start small. And it is definitely going to give you that daily boost, that daily motivational dose that all of us need. So that's basically about. I'm hoping that you have your paper and pen ready with you to take some notes, and inshallah we'll further break it down for you, Dr. Francesca.
Yeah, and concerning this daily important aspect of routine, one thing that I would also like to remind people is that not all the times in the day are equal. So, for example, there is this very important dua that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made for our ummah, which was, "Oh Allah, bless my nation in their early morning." So early morning is definitely the place to start, because you can get so much accomplished in such a little time. And also for another reason that is crucial for productivity, which is the idea of a barakah. So barakah is basically the blessing that there is in some specific times of the day, for example, or in some specific activities. And of course, one should then worry about many things if they want to be productive. For example, does their productivity then go and get them earn halal income, which then will reflect on their barakah? Are they eating from halal food, which then reflect on their barakah? And are they abstaining from sins, and so on and so forth? We know that in the Islamic tradition, when Imam al-Shafi'i asked his teacher about his weak memory, his teacher advised him to abstain from sin. So the concept of barakah really encourages us in the field of Islamic psychology not to be reductionistic towards goal setting, towards productivity. But this should not be a problem for us Muslims, because we are really trained for the knowledge that Allah has everything in His hand, and that therefore our productivity is directly related to His being satisfied with us and our actions. So if we want to have more productive days ahead, inshallah, for what Allah has decided for us to have, then we definitely should work on having more barakah from our action, from our income, from the way we treat our family members, and so on.
Absolutely.
Another point.
Sure, Doc. I'll just take a minute break because there's adhan going on at my back, so inshallah you can continue for a while.
Yes, no worries. An example of this productivity that I wanted to make is of a crucial figure in our tradition, that is the one of Ibn Taymiyyah. Because Ibn Taymiyyah, mashallah, was very well known for being incredibly productive at his time. There is one of his students that reports that he used to compose from memory, just writing and writing and writing paper after paper. And he was also able to cite from written material without having to consult it. And even in prison, mashallah, he could remain exactly as productive because he had everything in his mind, everything perhaps planned and so clear that there was not need of more work and making drafts and so on. Just many of the materials that he wrote, many of the books that we have, are books that Ibn Taymiyyah wrote on the first shot without any further need. So this is definitely an example of somebody who prioritized barakah in his life, of course, even in the smaller things, even in his attention to small details of the sunnah to hold up, and of somebody who planned well and had clear ideas about what he wanted to do.
All right, Jazakumullah khair. That was very beneficial, Dr. Francesca, very relevant example. And when you talk about Ibn Taymiyyah writing it down, so again, writings has power associated with it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by pen in Quran, Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun. So some people, they like to do everything in their head, and usually I encourage my students to write everything down, because your head or heart are sacred places for the love of Allah, for the love of His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when we start doing everything in our head, we leave no space for that love. And when we're talking about Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the things that I personally do and I would recommend all of us doing, and especially when we talk about earning reward through our goals, is that attach your goals to your daily du'as. The way Dr. Francesca suggested that choose any top 5 areas of your life and have goals for them, and then turn those goals into probably a one-line dua that you can make to Allah every day in every salah. Since of course all of us are so busy, we don't have any time to make long duas, but probably as short as 5 sentences. And what I'd recommend is that quarterly you measure your progress. After every 3 months or so, measure what changes have you noticed, what have you achieved, have you come where you wanted to, and if you have not, then what's lacking. If you have, then by all means present your gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La in shakartum la azidannakum, if you're grateful, I'm going to give you more. And if you have not, God forbid, then see what's lacking. What changes can you make, rather than being disappointed or being sad about it. It's said that whatever you measure, you improve. And of course, Dr. Francesca, if you would want to add something to that effect, if we are not reaching where we want to, and we are in easy words, if we are failing and falling apart, what should our attitude be?
Yes, so one thing that you have said about it that is, I think, very important, mashallah, is about adding your goals to your prayer. And I think that the role of prayer really is a key for both the part of the planning and the part of measuring the results, and not being frustrated when we cannot reach our results. And it is, first of all, in the part of being more contemplative than we usually are. So not to be sucked in by our daily material goals. They can be as noble as we want, but still they're attached to this dunya most of the times, as they should be. But we should not get sucked in this dynamic, and therefore intervalling our productivity with contemplation, of course, with the 5 daily prayers, but also with ibadah of other types, such as dhikr, or such as tafakkur, contemplating and reading the Quran. All these things can really help, because they help putting the correct dimension, attaching the correct dimension to the struggles and the issues that we have in front of us. And eventually to cultivate one of the biggest virtue that we should have as Muslims, which is the rida, the happiness and satisfaction with whatever happens in our destiny, inshallah.
Inshallah. And of course, again, not directly related to our topic, but when you say that, just give me a moment. Are you hearing a lot of background noise, or is it okay? It's okay?
Not.
All right. So yes, I was saying that, again, not directly related to our topic, but contemplation, tafakkur. We do not, when we talk about ibadah, we only think that ibadah means rituals, when you're praying, when you're, when you're fasting, when you're going for Hajj. But we cannot internalize the fact that when you're sitting and contemplating, you're thinking about the creation of Allah, or you're contemplating on your own self, you're having some quote unquote me time. That's also a form of ibadah. It is very hard for us to internalize that tafakkur, contemplation, is especially when we were talking about the post-Fajr hours, the Bocca-Aldaqre 4 post-Fajr hours. I think that's the best time for contemplation, because that's the time of least distraction for all of us. And there's a concept in modern psychology that is gaining a lot of hype. It's deep work. Deep work is when you, when you are working and you're fully focused on your work, and there's no distraction, and you are working on something that's cognitively demanding, that is pushing you to your cognitive limits, yani. Uh, and this is what it allows you to master any subject or any skill that you want, right? With 100% distraction free. I say that is our 21st century ability to multitask, or distraction is something that is the gift of the century. But the more you will be able to do this deep work as compared to the shallow work that we do, we're working and we have 10 tabs on and so on and so forth. So I'll give you a simple example. Post Fajr time, if you have a goal of memorizing Quran, and if you're memorizing it with 100% attention, you are quote unquote doing this deep work, right? Or if you have the a goal of learning the translation, or even if it is, let's say starting a new business, or teaching a course, or structuring a course, this is the time when, subhanallah, your children are sleeping, when especially young mothers, our children, they are mostly they are around us when we're working. So that's the time when they are sleeping, when your neighbors are not going to ring your doorbell. Anything of that sort is not happening. So may Allah allow us to use those barakah filled hours. I was in conversation with a sister, and I was just asking her. I'm very fond of asking questions to anyone that I see is very productively working, especially with the kids. So I said, how are you managing? I mean, so many things. How are you doing all of them, and you're doing it so well? So she said, I don't work much. I just work, I just utilize a couple of hours after Fajr, and then I'm a normal mom. Like, I'm doing anything that a normal mom is doing. And that is definitely incredibly impressive, that if you can utilize, if Allah allows us to utilize those hours, I think we can definitely make a lot of difference in this world, inshallah.
Yes, mashallah. Thank you very much for the examples, because they strike very close to home. I also many times ask such questions, because of course one always wants to do more, and sometimes also I realize that the issue is not setting a realistic objective sometimes. So we tend to be too optimistic and to overvalue our own abilities. But at the same time, really, if we see that every day we are being able to put a bit of this deep work, then that should be already enough. Because as we know, the most valuable things are the ones that are small but done constantly. So I believe that it is very good if we're not aiming at like memorizing the whole Quran in 1 year, but rather at daily making a habit of reading it with the effort and the intention to memorize it. So I don't know, do you want to add something, Sister Bella?
When it comes to memorizing Quran, I think it's, I'm not sure what happens in your part of the world, but here in the subcontinent, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the surrounding areas, what we think is that memorizing Quran is like one-time task. You just take 2 years, you memorize Quran and finish, khalas, that's it. Right? And since my daughter is also memorizing Quran, I keep telling people, say, see, we have a lifelong plan. We are not, it's like, oh, she has been memorizing Quran for quite a long time. I said, we are not in a hurry at all. Like, we're going to take our sweet time. So it's not a one-time event or something. I mean, may Allah allow us to keep memorizing Quran for as long as we are alive, and do not make it a one-time event or something of that sort. Again, that was a tangent. I apologize for that, but I thought it's important to address it. So, Dr. Francesca, the next question that usually comes, we have talked about the importance of goal setting, about how to set goals. Now, the thing is, what if I fail? I set goals, but I fail. When I do not achieve my goals, I feel so heartbroken. So, how to deal with that part?
Well, in this case, really, I think one has to take a step back, which is a little bit difficult because, again, as I said, at least it's my defect. So I always talk about it. We tend to get too engrossed in the things we are doing and not to be able to see at the wider picture. But really, here the Quran comes to our help, telling us that perhaps you like a thing that is not good, that you dislike a thing which is instead good for you, and this is a very important teaching. We want things to happen in our life which are good for us. We want eventually to succeed in our life task, which is eventually ibadah, and for Allah to be content with us. And this is really the eventual success that we want beyond our goals of a year, a day, or whatever. And at the same time, that as long as we have put a correct niyyah, as long as our intention was pure, which is also a task which is not easy to achieve, then we know that we will receive a reward for that. And keeping in mind, perhaps, that Allah is the best of planners. And therefore, if we've put the correct intention and we have done everything that was in our power, then this really is the best plan for us. And we should not forget that our life is not completely in our hand, that there is a creator, there is somebody who's directing our actions and our purpose.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree. And also that I'll just add one small point here, that when you're setting goals, make sure that you set goals that make you slightly uncomfortable, that they kind of push you out of your comfort zone, but at the same time, they have some element of, they are somewhat realistic, that, rather than, as Dr. Francesca just said, I'm going to memorize the entire Quran in 1 year probably, or I'm going to memorize 1 page of Quran a day. For the beginners, it may be very, very difficult. So something that is more, probably, start with 2 lines a day and then build upon it as you go along. Set goals that, of course, that makes you uncomfortable by all means, but not too uncomfortable that, you just drop the idea altogether. So, and there are, of course, various different other ways of doing this, but I think for the beginners, this should suffice. So, if you do not want to add anything, or if you perhaps you want to, Dr. Francesca, we inshallah wind up and go towards taking questions.
Yes, definitely. I think that one of the key points that we have talked about it is this Islamic virtue of balance in all things, and in goal planning and goal setting, it is really the same. So something between putting our trust in Allah and not to have lengthy hopes in dunya, but working in the dunya. So really, Islam oftentimes does not give us too simplistic answers to our question, because it forces us to reflect and to contemplate and to really bring out this complexity which constitutes us. So once again, the teaching is the one of balance. And I would also be glad to answer some questions if there are, inshallah.
Absolutely, Dr. Francesca. So just moving towards the question answer session, we'll take the first question. How do you beat severe procrastination in doing good? Procrastination.
Okay. That is an interesting one, because there are a lot of techniques to help for procrastination, which is one of the most effective, I know, which is to force yourself every day to do one silly action. It could be, there are people that struggle with procrastination so much that they don't, even cook themselves meals. Okay, so you start forcing yourself to prepare salad from scratch. That's it. Khalas, for the rest of the day, you're fine. No rushes. And if you have done that, then you start feeling this very sweet feeling that is the one of reward, of having been able to do something. And then usually this is done with a counselor's help, because they have to really strike the balance between letting oneself being too happy with their procrastination and being too severe, so that then they get scared again and they withdraw. Because sometimes procrastination is really an issue of being afraid of, there are too many things to do and too many responsibilities. I don't want to do any of them. So one starts to procrastinate. So forcing yourself to do one small task a day and then going up from there, that could be a first technique. What do you say, Sister Bela?
Absolutely, I completely agree. And I completely agree also when you say that there are so many ways of beating procrastination. One thing that I personally do for myself is to connect that particular task that I am procrastinating on with my big why, right? With my vision. So everything, when it is attached to my vision, my big why, that, why do I want to do that? So for example, if I have to, just say I have to memorize, let's say, a few lines of Quran, and if I'm not doing it, I just connect it to why eventually I want to do that, right? And if I have to do a bit of research and I'm procrastinating, or in the case I have to write something, and I connect it to my bigger why. Why do I want to do it in the first place? And I think about my vision, about my purpose, about the meaning that I have given to life, and attach this current task with that. it also just immediately gives me that instant motivation that I need to get off the bed and start doing it. Sometimes, the responsibilities are a blessing in one way. The deadlines and the responsibilities that we have, they are a blessing in one way or the other. I don't want to write that paper, but I have this deadline coming up, so I must. And I don't want to get up and make breakfast for myself, but then I have kids. I cannot procrastinate. So these responsibilities are also a blessing in disguise. Of course, we can do, I think, an entire Facebook Live on just addressing procrastination, but I'll move on to the next question. So it says, how do you balance your life with multiple roles while at the same time striving for ihsan in each role?
Oh, well, the first part of the question is easy because I go with a very strict daily schedule for everything. So I allocate a certain amount of hours for things. And in those hours, I force myself to have a checklist done. And I am a person who's incredibly organized and who draws a lot of pleasures from getting things achieved. So that works for me very well. Some other people I know find this sort of, Excel-based, checklist-based, color-coded thing very suffocating. So this also depends on your type, of a human type. And concerning the ihsan question, what helps me the most is to break it up with contemplation and to break it up with other things. So between one task and the other, there are pauses, and this can be dhikr, can be Quran, and so on, or can be many times going out in nature, which is also a place where there are a lot of ayat of Allah to meditate on. And these really help you going out of, the hamster wheel of life and because this hamster wheel is really the enemy of ihsan, because when you are too much engrossed in your daily to-do list, then you're just done, and you do not really struggle for perfection, and you don't really do your best. You're not fully focused in it. You're focused in the having it done, going in and having it in the past. So these would be my tips. What about yours?
I think you have covered it very well, Dr. Francesca. I'm not achieving ihsan in any of my roles, so I don't think so. I'm the best person to answer this question. I'll move on to the next one. Sometimes we work hard and try being productive in our roles. We tend to lose our soul or spirituality. How do we tackle the issue?
We tend to lose our
spirituality.
Our spirituality. Well, this could be perhaps a problem of connecting your role to your vision, because sometimes our goals become just, again, things we have to do, or they become chores sometimes, or if it's a job, then it just becomes getting the salary at the end of the month. And these are of course, things that might draw you away from spirituality. So every once in a while, one should really do this muraqaba sort of self-evaluation. And in every form of self-evaluation, the most important thing is to look at the very long-term objective. What is my vision of myself? What do I want to be? And try to find if there is a connection between what you're doing and that goal, which should be as close as possible to worshiping Allah in the best way that I can do with my skills, with my specificities, and so on. And sometimes it can happen that perhaps you realize your goals are wrong. Perhaps you're in the wrong job and nobody really forbids you from changing that. Sometimes we set the wrong goals to ourselves, and it is good if we feel too drained by it, perhaps it is time to change.
Absolutely. Jazakumullah khairan kathira. One more question, Dr. Francesca. It says, how to deal with lack of willpower in achieving goals? Like sometimes you have all the resources and energy, but you cannot put yourself to work.
Okay. So all the resources and energy is an interesting part, because sometimes people who cannot, get to work, it's a problem of feeling really this lack of willpower. If you really have everything working out, perhaps you have not chunked up your goal too well. So it is something as big as I want to translate a book, and this is really too much. If I started it like that, I would just run away, too afraid for everything. But if it's like, okay, I want to read again these 2 pages and translate them, or I want, I don't know, for my child, the question is sometimes I want my child to grow up well. This is again, it's something that is so big and so scary. There are so many variables. But if it's today, I want to have quality time with my kid when he finishes school and to stay together and to, you know, value his emotions or whatever, then, you know, all the energy and all the power can be channeled in a way that is productive and not scary.
Absolutely. One of the things that I would recommend is to have an accountability buddy, right? So when you are doing something with a jama'ah, or even, you know, 2 people constitute a jama'ah, a group. So when you are doing something in a group, it becomes easier. If you're doing it, so for example, you have planned to fast on Monday, you have the resources, you have, you know, meal for your suhoor, you have the energy to fast, but then you just don't feel like getting up. So probably having an accountability buddy who can just send you a message and say, no, you have to get up, you know, get on your feet and show me a photo of yourself getting on your feet. So when you do that, you know, achieving goals become easier. Also, you know, sometimes you can make yourself stuck to in a way that I don't know how to phrase that. Probably you can commit to something that you cannot back off from. So, for example, if my greater purpose is to teach, then I'm working for IOU, right? I cannot say that one day I wake up and I don't feel like working. I don't have a choice. I have to, right? Or if I'm conducting a workshop and I have given the dates to the organizers and people are coming, I cannot get up and say, oh, I have the resources, I have the energy, but I don't feel like doing it. So since I have made that commitment, I cannot back off. So probably whatever is that you're working on, whatever your goal is, see how you can have an accountability buddy, or see how can you commit in a way that you cannot back off, even if you want to, right? So that's pretty much it. Would you like to take a one last question, Dr. Francesca? Or shall we wind up?
Okay, one last question and then let's wind it up.
Okay, one last question and we'll wind it up. How do we be productive when we have a mental illness? That's pretty much related to our announcement coming up, maybe.
Okay. Well, this is a very difficult question because every mental illness affects your productivity in a different way. There are even mental illnesses that apparently increase your productivity because they make you feel so hyper, and some that apparently just do not want to make you not to feel any productive, but perhaps you still want to be productive. Some other times you completely withdraw. So it really depends on which type of mental problem we're talking about. And then it becomes even more complicated than that, because it is really affecting each person at a different level of severity and depending on their own personality, their own family relationship. So there isn't really a one size fits all with productivity and mental disorders. But of course, one thing that would be very recommended is to get help, in this case by a qualified mental health professional, inshallah.
Exactly. Just to take up from there, Dr. Francesca, that when you have a mental illness and when you know that there is a mental illness, then taking therapy, I cannot recommend enough, because a lot of people, they try to self-treat them. That's one thing. Or they think that their friend or their mother or their brother, who's not a qualified therapist, is the therapist. So these are the circumstances when there are chances that they may end up causing more damage. Madallah, may Allah protect all of us, but they can end up doing more harm to you than good, even if they have sincere intentions, even if they are very loyal to you. So I would highly recommend getting professional help. There are, alhamdulillah, so many professionals out there who can help you without compromising your Islamic values. And that's what brings to our little announcement, probably a teaser rather than announcement, that inshallah, tonight you can expect our website to be launched with our Islamic counseling services being offered online. So whichever part of the world you are in, you're most welcome to have a look at our website and get services if you want. And we have qualified counselors, inshallah. They are ready to help you, and you can do it anonymously. You can do it from the comfort of your home. You don't have to travel. So this is the good part of getting online help. So inshallah, I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that you will be looking forward to it as well. Dr. Francesca, if there's anything else.
Oh, thank you very much, Sister Bella. I really, really appreciated talking about this important issue and very relevant to our daily life, because that's the way we start our day, really thinking about our goals, our to-do list, sometimes feeling overwhelmed, sometimes feeling stressed. So having this set up in order, at least having some tips that we can try to put in our lives is very precious. So barakallahu fiki for doing this with me.
Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. And again, thank you very much, Dr. Francesca. Inshallah, we'll wind up here, and we pray to Allah to allow us to have another 365 productive days. And whatever we do, may it be a source of care for ourselves, for our family, for the entire ummah, for the greater good of entire ummah and humanity. And may Allah accept whatever little bit we are doing for His sake. I'll wind it up here. Wa akhir da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.
Assalamu alaikum.